Mahayana Buddhism. Mahayana Buddhism emerges in the first century of the Common Era. New sutras, Buddhist scriptures, begin to emerge 400 years after the death of the historical Buddha. Ultimately, Buddhists need to decide how they intend to relate with these new texts and the Buddhist cultures that produce them. Those who accept the authority of these sutras eventually forge a new branch of Buddhist practice and call themselves Mahayana, the Great Vehicle, as a claim of superiority to mainstream Buddhism. Greater than 85% of the world's Buddhists practice a form of Mahayana Buddhism. The regions where Mahayana is most prominent include China, Southeast Asia, Korea, and Japan. Mahayana practice focuses on ritual devotion to a Buddha or Bodhisattva. A Buddha is an enlightened being. In Theravada, there is one Buddha for each cosmic age, and the Buddha for the present age is incarnated as Siddhartha Gautama, who becomes the Buddha. In Mahayana, there are many Buddhas. A Bodhisattva is a person who has attained enlightenment and dwells in a heaven, but who continues to work on earth to help others achieve enlightenment. Through devotional practices such as reciting mantras and burning incense, Mahayana practitioners seek merit from bodhisattvas in the belief that bodhisattvas, because of their compassion, bestow some of their own good karma on other people. Mahayana emerges about the same time Bhakti Hinduism emerges from classical Hinduism. Like Bhakti Hinduism, Mahayana develops a devotional practice initiated by lay people in pursuit of supernatural assistance. In both Buddhist and Hindu contexts, devotional religion moves religious practice away from formal institutions controlled by religious elites to a practice lay people direct for themselves. For all three vehicles of Buddhism, the aim remains the same: to live and practice Buddhism in an effort to alleviate suffering. For all Buddhists, merit is gained by leading a life in accord with Buddhist precepts such as do not take a life or do not take what is not given. But in Mahayana practice, people can also receive merit from bodhisattvas as a gift. While Theravada lay people give donations to monks in the hopes of gaining merit and a favorable reincarnation, many Mahayana lay people believe that the bodhisattvas to whom they direct their attention have so much merit to give others that they can even bestow nirvana on lay people. And people may not need to wait for death to receive nirvana. Bodhisattvas can even give it to people while they're still alive. In Mahayana, bodhisattvas serve as the ideal type. People emulate their compassion, and some people strive to become bodhisattvas themselves. To make a comparison, Theravada Buddhist monks and nuns seek to become arhats, wise people who at death attain nirvana. Mahayana Buddhists, both monastics and lay people, work to grow in compassion so they can become bodhisattvas at their death and help others attain nirvana. The goal of religious practice remains the alleviation of dukkha, suffering. But in Mahayana, it's not enough to relieve one's own suffering. People strive also to help others attain spiritual relief from dukkha. This goal might strike us ambitious, and we see this ambition in a traditional formulation of the Bodhisattva vow, which some Buddhists recite as an expression of their desire to attain this goal. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to liberate them all. The afflictions are inexhaustible. I vow to extinguish them all. The Buddhist teachings are infinite. I vow to master them all. The Buddhist way is unsurpassed. I vow to attain it. Mahayana adapts Buddhist Dharma in interesting ways. We will look at two developments: upaya, skillful means, and shunyata, emptiness. As Mahayana emerges, its practitioners develop new sutras. Buddhist scriptures are called sutras. The oldest Buddhist sutras are contained in the Pali Canon, which gathers written memories of the teachings of the historical Buddha. Buddhist legend holds that some of the earliest followers of the Buddha draft the sutras of the Pali Canon to resolve disputes about Buddhist Dharma. These texts often start with the phrase, "Thus have I heard." The phrase speaks to an eyewitness testimony that offers legitimacy to the sutra's teaching because it preserves what was actually taught by the historical Buddha. As new sutras emerged between 200 BCE and 200 of the Common Era, which is between 400 and 800 years after the life of the historical Buddha, some of them also start with the phrase, "Thus have I heard." Mahayana Buddhists honor these texts as authentic expressions of Buddhist Dharma, even when they seem to contradict earlier teachings preserved in the Pali Canon. Mahayana harmonizes these apparent inconsistencies in Buddhist Dharma with the concept of upaya, or skillful means. The Buddha is said to teach each audience what they need to move them forward on their own path toward enlightenment. Since the goal of Buddhist Dharma is pragmatic, to help people grow in wisdom, it does not seek to describe reality in a complete and final way, but to help people recognize what's happening in their lives and to respond appropriately. So, many Mahayana monks and philosophers see the new sutras as having a presentation tailored skillfully to meet the needs of its audience. Since various communities have different needs, Dharma does not always use the same words or the same content, even as all Buddhist Dharma shares the same goal. The Lotus Sutra, which includes narratives to illustrate its teachings, includes a well-known story that reflects the concept of upaya, skillful means. The Buddha is compared to a father whose house catches on fire. So he rushes to rescue his children, only to find that they refuse to leave because they're engrossed in the games they're playing. So the father lures his children outside with promises tailored to each child. They will each receive a gift they desire. For one child, this is a carriage pulled by an ox. For another, it is a carriage pulled by a goat. And for the third, a carriage pulled by a deer. After the father's promises succeed in getting his children to follow him from the burning house to safety, they emerge to find an even more marvelous sight, a jewel-studded carriage pulled by a white steer. In this story, the father tells each of his children what he thought necessary to lead the child to safety. Seemingly contradictory Buddhist teachings might seem like deceptions or errors. We might look at them as white lies people tell for others' benefit. Or we could look at variety within Buddhist Dharma as strategically useful. The father does not deceive his children, but tells each child what it takes to help them recognize the reality of their present situation, to grow in wisdom, and to become ready to receive the next teaching. A second development of Buddhist Dharma in Mahayana is the concept of shunyata, emptiness. We learned already about the three marks of existence: dukkha, anicca, and anatta. The concept of impermanence informs both anicca and anatta. Anicca speaks to the state of flow or flux of the phenomena we encounter in the world, and anatta says that people do not have an essential self or soul, but emerge as a combination of aggregates: matter, feeling, perception, conditioning factors, and consciousness. Shunyata makes the claim that each of the aggregates also lacks its own being, because it is also a composite. Everything we encounter in the world lacks its own being, but instead emerges from an interdependent and changing chain of causes. All phenomena, then, have no essence, no arising, no passing away. The Heart Sutra is relatively short, so many Mahayana Buddhist monks recite it from memory as part of their daily practice. The sutra reads as a teaching by Avalokitesvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, to Sariputra, who is a monk. It offers a concise summary of the Mahayana concept of shunyata. In one of its stanzas it says, "Listen, Sariputra, this body itself is emptiness, and emptiness itself is this body. This body is not other than emptiness, and emptiness is not other than this body. The same is true of feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. The Heart Sutra finishes with a well-known mantra. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisvaha, which translates, gone, gone, all the way over, gone to the other shore of enlightenment. To our ears, shunyata might seem like a nihilistic teaching. Nothing is real, so nothing matters. But in the context of Mahayana practice, this is not a renunciation of meaning, but a pathway to freedom. People perceive phenomena to be fixed, to make demands of us, and sometimes even to trap us. But when people recognize that the phenomena we perceived as fixed to be an illusion, they can feel liberated. This might seem like a silly game of wordplay, or a wildly impractical way of seeing the world. When our children are crying for food, we can heartily respond with compassion by seeing them and their hunger as illusions. But Mahayana Dharma is more sophisticated than this. Nagarjuna, a Buddhist monk and philosopher who lived sometime between 150 and 250 of the Common Era, speaks of two truths: the truth of appearances and the truth of ultimate reality. When our children cry out in hunger, it is useful and even necessary to respond to this cry as a truth of appearance. But when they cry that they need to spend $2,000 for a concert ticket, it can be liberating to remember that marketing produced their desire. And the absolute truth of ultimate reality helps people recognize a hunger for a $2,000 concert ticket as being ultimately empty. Or more seriously, if a politician tries to convince people that some cause requires them to make an ultimate sacrifice, we might hope that they will be able to recognize that, compared with ultimate reality, the politician's appeal is empty. Mahayana's adaptability. As Mahayana spreads from India through Southeast Asia, across China, to the Korean Peninsula, and to Japan, it shows a propensity for cultural adaptation. Mahayana practitioners fit Buddhist practice into the cultural values of the countries where they live. For example, where monastic practice runs afoul of Confucian standards of filial piety, lay devotional practice allows Mahayana to avoid this clash. In some places, like Tibet, Mahayana integrates other religions into Buddhist practice. This cultural adaptability and a genius for innovation gives rise to a diversity of schools and traditions within Mahayana. Each practice of Mahayana develops its own approach to Buddhism. Many have sutras, Buddhist scriptures, with special prominence. Each tends to prioritize devotion to a specific Buddha or Bodhisattva, and the rituals through which people express their devotion, such as burning incense or reciting mantras, also vary. Different schools, different Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas. Avalokitesvara is a bodhisattva with widespread appeal in a number of different cultural contexts. The name Avalokitesvara comes from Sanskrit and translates Lord who looks down with compassion. As devotion to the bodhisattva of compassion spreads, his image and the bodhisattva's gender change. Buddhists in China address the goddess of compassion Guanyin, while Buddhists in Japan address Kannon. And in Tibet, Chenrezig Zig names the masculine aspect of Avalokitesvara, while his consort Tara names the bodhisattva's feminine aspect. If you've ever seen a statue of a chubby, laughing Buddha in a restaurant or for sale at a gift shop, it is probably Maitreya, the Buddha to come. Though he is currently a bodhisattva, his devotees anticipate his reincarnation as a Buddha in a future age. Pure Land Buddhism focuses on devotion to Amitabha, or Amida, the Buddha of infinite light. They describe the Pure Land as a place to which people go when they die, to live with Amida until they can attain enlightenment. The Buddhist churches of America emerged from a Japanese school of Pure Land Buddhism. One of the best known schools of Mahayana Buddhism in the US is called Chen in China and Zen in Japan. Zen distinguishes itself from other Mahayana schools in several ways. We will learn more about Zen later in this course. In summary, Mahayana is the largest of Buddhism's three vehicles. It is prominent in China, Southeast Asia, Korea, and Japan. In Mahayana, the Bodhisattva is the ideal type. People strive to help others reach enlightenment after their own death. Mahayana develops Buddhist Dharma in interesting ways. Upaya, or skillful means, says that a Buddha adapts Dharma pragmatically to help each audience take the steps necessary to attain enlightenment. This accounts for differences between sutras, Buddhist scriptures. Shunyata means emptiness. It makes the claim that all phenomena lack their own being because they emerge from an interdependent and changing chain of causes. Shunyata is an ultimate truth that leads to freedom, but at times the truths of appearance can be useful. In Mahayana, there are many Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Often a Buddhist school or a tradition of Mahayana practice focuses devotion on a particular Buddha or Bodhisattva.